Hey there, welcome back. Hey, I got another great video today, some great content. This is a question I get asked a lot, basically how to buy and sell a home, especially with what we've had going on the last couple years. We have a couple options here today, kind of go over what I've done in the last year and just the various options are. The first one basically is to sell your home and rent until you find a home you want. It's not ideal, but it's one of the options. I had a few clients this past year who did this and worked out. Yes, it's moving twice, so it doesn't work for everyone. It really does depend on your situation. You'll need to talk with whom you're renting from to get the particulars on how to break the lease, whether it's an apartment or a home, and see, because they're all very different. You can see if you can sign up for a 6-month lease. I did have 3 clients do it this year. They made it work. I've heard from them that you need a 60-day notice in some cases to break the lease. You always have to give 30 days notice regardless, whether it's a year lease or whatever. So I heard maybe you had to pay 2 months lease again, but then I think that's the 30 days that they were talking about. And it works very well in many cases when the buyers want to fix up a home before moving in. You know, whether they're getting painting done, taking up carpet, putting in flooring like luxury vinyl, or any bigger projects before moving in. So that's a good thing. It allows for you to take boxes over daily or every other day, making moving and organizing easier. You can put all your stuff in the cupboards, the cabinets, reorganize, actually move to the house, and before you get the movers or your friends to move all the big furniture. But all rentals, like I mentioned, are different, so make sure you talk with the company to find out what their policy is and start really far in advance on this. A second option is to list your home, and usually what I do is I put in the private remarks that it's subject to the seller finding a home. A con of this, of course, is that it does limit the buyers to an extent in their scenario, based on their situation. But the buyers right now have to be flexible regardless in this market if they want to win a bidding war. If they want to get the best house, the one that's priced right and the most gorgeous, updated, always tend to get bidding wars right now in this market in the last 2 years, basically. So unless your budget is $400,000 and above, you'll need to be flexible in order to get the house you want. Kind of think out of the box. A little tougher, not going to lie. Again, there's a couple options, and as long as you are planned in advance, it works out fairly well, and they've all gotten a house that they really liked. I mentioned the houses that are in the perfect HGTV, are wanted by the majority of buyers. So to expect a bidding war on those houses, especially during the peak season. We have a little bit of leeway when it comes to maybe November-ish or January, just depending on interest rates and whatnot. But during the peak season, just right now, expect a bidding war. A third option is to list your home predetermined lease back to give you a set amount of time to find another home. And what I mean by that is do a 30 or 60-day lease back. Con to this is that you will need to find a rental if you are unable to get a lease under contract in time. There might be some negotiation in there still with the buyer, but if it's already in the contract, like a 30 or 60 day, it's kind of in their decision on how they want to work with that. So really, it's if we don't find it in time, you would want to need it and get it rental. What's great is when you list your home, and if you get multiple offers, show a homeowner how to properly structure their purchase offer on their purchase price. I remember I talked to somebody on the phone once, and they got the first offer, and I was shocked. And she's like, well, yeah, we had so many multiple offers on our house that we saw how to write the offer, so they don't have to trust and listen to their agent. They're able to see it firsthand. Where typically an agent's telling you how to write the offer within your comfort zone, of course. They saw it firsthand. So that's the cool thing about when you're buying and selling a home at the same time. In Wichita, the $200,000 and $300,000 homes will be receiving multiple offers if they're priced right, in pristine condition. So it's best to go all in if you want to win the house. And if your agent knows that there's multiple offers already as you're writing the offer. You always want your agent to make sure, hey, look, is there another offer? And if there are 1 or 2 or whatever. Ways to win it are, you want to go over asking, you want to bring an appraisal gap, maybe bring some extra money in case there is an appraisal gap, buying the home with an as-is condition. But usually we write it to where it's contingent upon the buyer accepting an inspection they do, meaning that They can still pull out of the contract if something big comes up. Sometimes I put like $1 off for like, hey, if anything's over like a $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 amount or a structural issue, how it's kind of worded in the contingency portion of the contract. So the buyer can back out if any of that comes up within the inspection and get their earnest money back. And of course I tell all my clients just to write an offer that they feel comfortable with. This video talks, of course, as a lot of my videos do, more in generalizations, more specifics in what your situation is. You always want to be talking with an agent. I mean, each client that's coming to us has a completely different situation, different life, different financial situation, different motivation. That all comes into play with what kind of suggestions we give to each individual client. So again, this video is on a generalization basis. And if you are enjoying this video and want to see more content like it, love it if you like the video below and subscribe, and you will get notified of all the new content that I do put out. So now back to give you the most recent situation I had with a client. They needed a one-story home due to some mobility issues. The seller was coming from a 2-story home with laundry in the basement. Clearly in this case, the seller was motivated almost more by a need than anything. How we handled this one after our discussion was we put my seller's home up for sale with a lease back of 60 days from the effective date, the offer date. I'm being very clear in saying effective date because you'll notice in our contract, referred to throughout the contract, the effective date, because there's a lot of different dates that need to be followed within the contract, and it's all in regards to the effective date. And that's the time and date that all the buyers have signed off on it, and that last signature, so to speak, from all the buyers and all the sellers. In this case, she was very motivated, as I mentioned, to buy a home, and did find a home very quickly, and it was accepted. I believe it was the second offer we put in, and it was a great house. It's funny because it's like it always tends to, of course I say this, and I'm sure there's occasions that don't, but like the majority, it tends to work out. Like it's just as if that motivation and need and the fact that their house is already under contract just kind of brings in the right house, and it gets accepted. This resulted, it was accepted, and she found it within a couple days, her only needing the 30 days of the lease back. She didn't need the whole 60. So we told the agent that, the buyer's agent, and we were able to close 30 days before the 60, so that was great. When this happens, buyers usually do a final walkthrough before closing and then another final walkthrough, in this case 30 days later, before they take possession. Funny enough, at the closing table, their agent said, hey, why don't you guys just work together? So they agreed to that. They shared each other's phone numbers. This is not always the case. And I'll say my seller kept her house in very nice condition, so it was kind of expected that that's how it would be at closing, and it was. So in this case, it worked out great, but usually like if I'm a buyer's agent, I do go, obviously to stay in touch even with these guys, but go back and do the final walkthrough 30 days later after closing before they take that final possession, just to make sure, nothing crazy is done. I mean, a lot of times you'll see a final walkthrough like sofas that are dragged out, hitting the walls, and some of it's just, it's going to happen in real estate, as long as there's not some ridiculous, scratch in the wall or something like that. Usually they're mostly forgiving. But anyways, that's the stuff that you check out that time just to make sure it's in a similar condition. Earlier this year, I also had another situation where my buyers bought a house. The sellers required a 5-month lease back. Now, yeah, that was crazy. That's the longest I've ever seen. Probably the longest I've even heard of with talking to other agents. But it was multiple offers, and my buyers won it, so of course that's the exciting part. But although it wasn't ideal for them, it worked out. They were going to rent out their home anyway. It was already there, it had already built in flexibility, where another buyer would not have had that. But they did have their first baby during that 5-month interim, so it wasn't ideal for them, but I think they're, at that point you're just so excited that you won the house. It's a gorgeous house, it's in a great neighborhood, the sellers were great people, kept in contact, professionally cleaned before they moved in, so everything worked out great in this situation. Again, and these guys weren't listing, listen, they were renting out their house anyways. It was just more of just kind of talking about a lease back in a situation. At the end of the day, here's a few solutions that we do look at in order to get a seller's house sold and another one purchased. It does take the seller making a decision on how they want to move forward. There's some options. Obviously, it's super ideal, but once you get your ducks in a row and you're mentally and emotionally you know, understanding clear about what the expectations are. It's kind of like, you know, and you can pick different options. Like I said, I've had some great examples that have worked out this past year. So just if you have any questions on it, give me a holler. As always, all my contact information is listed in the description below all my videos. Totally appreciate you watching and have a great day.